Selectmen's meeting. Would you all rise, join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have Joe Demore for a short public comment.
See the microphone over there?
Is that kind of an oxymoron, Joe?
It'll be short.
What's that?
It'll be short.
Sweet.
And sweet, hopefully. Thank you very much for your time. On May 24th of 2021, you may remember at the town meeting that there were two warrant articles that were approved by the townspeople. One of them was Article 4 to rescind the finance director position, and Article 5 was to implement under 4123A, Massachusetts General Law, a town administrator. Now, you do retain the right to not implement a bylaw to make it more specific and more better suited for the town and just rely on general law from Massachusetts. But I believe everybody here would understand that the spirit of what the public had asked for is that true authority would be transferred to the town administrator position. If we don't do that, we're not going to be able to retain or recruit high-quality individuals. I very honestly believe that. Now, you may remember that the Groveland Town Administrative Bylaw Committee, we labored, and it was a great labor. It was no complaints. We loved what we did. And what we put together was a bylaw draft, which was approved by you. And the bylaw draft has significant legal references and precedents. It really is plug and play. It's not a draft that's going to need all kinds of work, and it's going to need no work. You can bring this over to the Senator Tar, and they can send it through the home rule petition and make it law. We can do it as a bylaw. So I'm asking for you to ask me to come back, and I'll try to bring a couple of members of the bylaw committee to come back in the first or the second meeting of January or the first meeting of February. So it's a full agenda item, and we can go over the bylaw and review the warrant articles and get on a path to implement the bylaw. If it's your decision not to implement, either by not inviting me back or specifically stating that, then I'll be very clear. And it's not an idle threat. This is because I'm trying to represent what the people had voted for. What I'll do in February is I'll pursue a citizen's petition to put the matter on the floor for the next town meeting. I have some technical and legal advice on how to do that, and there is a mechanism that will allow any citizen in the town of Groveland to put a warrant article if it's done through the necessary process. That's it. If I can take questions or comments, I'm not sure if you can do that with public comment. I will. If not, I'll be on my way.
Well, we can put you on the agenda, and you can take questions, comments at that time.
Of course.
Mr. Chairman,
But
one point of clarification. I'm fairly positive the Board of Selectmen did not approve a bylaw. What was put on the website was a draft of what was being worked on, and we didn't get to that point yet.
And we need to get to that point. That's the point.
It's something that would be something to be put in process, but it's not something that I would want to rush through, so in process.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to submit copies of the bylaw and the warrant. Thank you again.
we can grab those afterwards. Thank you. Is, by any chance, is Jason on remotely? No? Thank you. Approval of the warrants. You want to read those amounts? Payroll warrants?
Jesus, this is gonna be good. All right. Make a motion to approve the payroll warrant 23-21 in the amount of $202,251.51.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
A second. Any discussion? None. All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Bill warrant?
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the bill warrant 23-21 in the amount of $497,968, oh, yeah, I screwed that one up. $497,968.40. And let's see, that is a breakdown of, the town is a $193,797,062. Water and sewer is $63,658.61. Payroll withholding is $27,682.92. No health insurance. Light bills is $197,999.79. And grants and revolving, $14,829.46.
Thank you.
Screwed that up.
Second,
It was a second, Kathy?
yes.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None. All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Approval of the minutes. May 4th. May 4th, special meeting.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes from May 4th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor? There shouldn't be. 4 in favor, 1 absent. June 15th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for June 15th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? None. All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent.
Abstain.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was absent.
Okay,
June 15th.
yes. I was looking for those. 3 in favor, 1 abstention, 1 absent. October 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve October 11th, 2022 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. October 24th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 24th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Dan, you were absent on that one. also. Motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor? 3 in favor, 1 abstention, 1 absent. Appointments of the board. Appointment of Deborah Stevenson of 34 Balch Avenue, Groveland, as a member of the Council of Aging, effective November 21st, 2022. Is Deborah here? No.
She sent a letter.
What's that?
There's a letter in our packet
I-
from her.
I say that. Okay, is there a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to appoint Deborah Stevenson of 34 Balch Avenue, Groveland, as a member of the Council on Aging, effective November 21st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
And is there a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I personally have known Deb Stevenson for a long time, and I think it's wonderful that she's stepping up to be on our Council of Aging, and we're lucky to get her on there.
Okay. There's a motion and a second, and anybody else in the discussion? None? All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Appointment of Barbara Sanborn, 15 Parker Road, member of the Council on Aging. And I didn't see a letter, you got it?
Very good, too.
Oh, thank you. Maybe I did, maybe I, yes, my mistake. I do have it. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Barbara Sanborn of 15 Parker Road, Groveland, as a member of the Council on Aging, effective November 21st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
And a second. Any discussion? None. All in
Um,
favor?
I'll say it at the end.
4 in favor, 1 absent. Appointment of Linda Brown for 4 Bridget Street, Groveland, member of the Council on Aging, effective November 21st, 2022. And we have a letter from Linda liking to become a member.
I'll make a motion to appoint Linda Brown of 4 Burgett Street, Groveland, as a member of the Council on Aging effective November 21st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
And a second, any discussion?
Yes. So I wanted to say this under Barbara, but was cut off. So I want to just reach out to, if they're watching, Barbara and Lyndon, thank you very much for stepping up to help our town. We appreciate that.
You know, I like all the comments that, it's great that the three of them have stepped up to, get on the Council on Aging. We had some resignations from there, and it's nice to see them, step up. Thank you. Anybody else? No, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Discussion with the Finance Board, fiscal 2024, review of budget goals. Financial policies and Pentucket Regional School agreement. And, don't we want to start?
Well, if I could, Mr. Chair, I just want to make one point of order that the Finance Board didn't have quorum tonight. There's only 2 of us here. We need 4 for quorum. So the Finance Board posted meeting is officially canceled. I updated the board outside that I canceled it. I signed, I dated it. I'm here just as my own personal representative, and I'm happy to contribute to the conversation since I do have a lot of background information, and probably the same for Sarah. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the modification. Thank you.
So being a joint discussion, we can proceed with it, I think. Somebody want to start?
So Mr. Chair, if I may preface the conversation, you'll first find in your packet a list of goals that we typically send out to the departments with their budget instructions, and it's just general sense of, what we're looking for to achieve as a town financially, in terms of economic development, neighborhood enhancement, community development, public safety, and government philosophy. So none of it's necessarily being changed, but because they are goals that we're putting forward to the departments, I just wanted to verify with the Board of Selectmen that those are in fact still current and still relevant, and those are the goals that we would like to continue to pursue.
Everybody read those over?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I read them over. They're well stated, the financial growth, the financial goal of steadily improving financial condition through balancing budgets and advancing responsible reserve policies that strengthen town government. It goes on from there. The economic development, an aggressive agenda that seeks to attract new revenues. Nothing wrong with that. We could use that. Already happening, these goals are already happening. Neighborhood enhancement, it's nice to see that pointed out, continually producing improvements in each and every neighborhood of the town by updating infrastructure through functioning capital improvement program and road maintenance, rehabilitating, enhancing open space, and other things like similar to that. Community development, further encouraging partnerships between town government and its stakeholders in Groveland's success, including other governmental entities, business community, nonprofit leaders, neighborhood groups, and individual residents in order to support a broad array of programs and initiatives. Public safety, that's always a high one. Constantly improving the protection of the public and its property by initiating policy and providing the necessary resources, training, manning, and equipment to effectively carry out the mission of the town's law enforcement, fire, and emergency management agencies. And then governmental philosophy, becoming a more open, responsive, and responsible municipal government through various public and media outlets that not only hears the needs of the people, but develops and initiates efforts designed to address those needs in an honest, fair, equitable, accountable, and cost-efficient manner. Very well written, well represented. I like it.
Anybody, any comments? Dan?
I do. Structure in terms of debt. We touched upon this at our last meeting. We're in an inflationary period, okay? Some say it's 8%. I think it's more like 38%, but depends on who you talk to and who's paying the bills. But it says here that you have a goal of, was it 10 years? does it say, what is your plan on, what is it right here? Town will attempt to maintain long-term debt schedule such that at least 50% of outstanding debt will be paid within 10 years. So,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a point of clarification? I thought that we were doing the goals and that we were doing the policies separate, but if we're doing them both together, I think the policies are fairly,
Yeah, I read them,
Lengthy.
I read them so that we could take them all together.
because I think it's kind of confusing to the public that, to not address the goals first and just
All
say,
right,
are
well,
these the
we'll,
goals?
it's all in one packet, so.
No, but the goals are what are, if I could just clarify, the goals are going to be encapsulated in the information sent to departments. So I thought we should just be clear about the goals. They're kind of straightforward.
What page are those on?
The goals are right in the
First page.
thing.
The preface?
Right
It's a single page.
Right here, this one.
It's
Those are
not in the
goals.
policies.
This is the policies.
Oh,
The goals.
separate.
Yes.
Oh,
That's what
forgive
she's
me.
stating.
You want a couple seconds to read it over?
Open sponsors. Yeah, it's pretty generic. It's fine.
Any comments from the finance board on that?
I believe this is the same statement of goals that has been presented in the budget book for the last several years, and I reread it. I think it's a healthy exercise to reread it annually, and I think that it represents the basic categories of what we really are trying to achieve. So I'm very comfortable with the statement of goals. I think that it encapsulates what we're trying to do through the budget.
Can you make a motion just to approve the goals as written so we can move on if that's what you wish, Mr. Chairman?
You're making a motion to,
Approve the goals as written, just this one-page goals sheet. Because it's what we've put in the book every year.
yeah? So there's a motion,
I'll second that.
second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I don't think we should vote on anything as the full finance board's not here. It's not really a joint meeting. So we don't have the finance committee here in quorum form.
May I comment
Go ahead.
on that? We reviewed this statement of goals at our last meeting. We did not take a formal vote, but there was a comprehensive discussion that everybody was comfortable with the goals. We would have had a vote had I known we were not going to have quorum tonight to move it forward, but our next meeting is not until December 21st. And we'd be happy to take a vote at that point in time, but just to keep the budget process on schedule and lined up and moving, I can just tell you that there was nothing came up in our conversation when we reviewed it at our last meeting negatively toward it. I fully expect that we would support them. They're the same goals that we've had stated for the last several years, so I would personally encourage you to move it forward, and we would follow, I would expect we would follow suit. But again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the
I
whole
think the
board.
proper thing to do would be for the finance board to take a vote at the meeting to approve it and then bring it back to the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
The finance board's primary role is as advisory to the town meeting, but one of our critical functions is to ensure that the budget process goes forward in a timely manner. So we need these goals to be acceptable so that the budget letters can go out to the departments and we can continue forward with the budgets on schedule.
When are those slated to go out, Rebecca?
The document is, to be sent this Friday.
We don't need this document here in order to send those out, do we?
They're naturally included so that the departments have an understanding of what we're working towards, but they don't have to be.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we just move these forward. These are the policies
You
that
already
we've
did.
had. Okay, was it seconded?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay, good.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I mean, it basically says that they're gonna work on making everything better in the future, you know? I mean, but as a courtesy to the finance committee, because this percolated up to us, you know, I'd go along with this, contingent upon them also following, and if they don't vote for it, which I don't know that I anticipate that, then they can bring it back. But I don't have any objections.
Okay, about all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Now, we'll do to the financial policies. Dan, you had started on that. You want to continue?
Yeah, as far as the debt goes, I think it's a worthy endeavor to pay the debt down as quickly as possible. But in this current environment, I think we should look at the existing debt and what the interest rates are, and if they're fixed. For example, if we have 1 or 2% interest rates, I don't know that in this inflationary period that it makes sense to prepay low-interest debt obligations, because if you need money in the near term or in the not-so-near term, you might end up paying a significantly higher rate. So I just, it's my suggestion that we look at that and not have a rigid policy to pay the debt down 50% within 10 years. For that reason, you know, having a long-term outlook on debt and the structure of debt, it could save us money in the short run and cost us significantly more in the long run.
Anybody else? Comment from the finance board? None?
Not at this time, no.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
if I'm understanding this correctly, this is, the policies are presented here are fairly comprehensive and cover everything from capital, debt management, forecasting, grant management, investments, procurement, reconciliation, anti-fraud, tax enforcement, tax recalculation, year-end closing. And I believe the audit report has asked us to do this for some time, if I'm remembering it correctly. So this is maybe the first time we're seeing them, so look through, and I didn't see anything that personally I would say no to. I think that this is the first framework we've ever seen for our financial policies, and it's been something that the auditors have asked us to do year after year. So this is good that we have something now. We have a live document. Maybe take some time and see if there's anything in here that needs to be changed. But other than that, it's a step in the right direction and long overdue. So thank you to our town administrator for putting this together.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, just follow up, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Throughout this document, there's the use of the word shall. So it is a 10-year plan, and we do need a plan. But if it's mandated and it's not flexible, it could force you to make poor financial decisions. So I would like, it's my suggestion, that some of the words shall should be changed to may. Or it's going to force our hand in a document that doesn't allow us to react to what's happening within the 10-year period.
I'd like a little more time to read the whole document. I didn't get through the whole thing, and did everybody get through the whole thing?
Yeah, I read it on my cell phone, so this is my first time seeing it
Okay.
on paper, so.
I've been through part of it.
Well,
I went through about half of it so far.
Okay.
So, yeah, I thought we would begin our review this
I
evening.
think we should,
Yeah,
I think we should table this until
Me too.
everybody's had a chance to
great.
read it, and absorb it.
And if I could, ask Mr. Chairman, through you to Selectman McDonald, if, I know in the anti-fraud responsibilities, I've read through the first several policies, I thought the word shall should be in something about anti-fraud, right? You know, if there's a problem. But if you could circle where you think the word shall should be changed out to the word may, that would be helpful, because it's a big document.
Okay, a motion to table, motion to table or a second?
I'll second that. Did you?
Motion and a second to
Yeah.
table. All, yes. There's a motion to table, no discussion on a motion to table. All in favor of tabling? 4 in favor, 1 absent. So we'll table it. Rebecca, we have a timeline when we can bring that up again? Next meeting should be pretty heavy.
Okay.
Uh, Do we, you don't think so?
No, whatever you prefer. We can put it
Well,
off to the following meeting.
we need to bring it back, but I'm just looking, do you have the calendar right there? And we have in a couple of weeks, we have coming up the end of the year license renewals.
Yes, those will be on the 19th.
Okay, when do you think we can put that on?
We can either put it on for, if the next meeting's too busy, we can put it on for the 19th. That would be the following, otherwise it'll take us to January.
Okay, let's put it on for next meeting, get it as soon as we can.
Okay.
Okay. Next meeting. Pawtucket Regional School Agreement. And I know Jason had done a lot of work, he's not with us tonight. Jason had done a lot of work on the regional school agreement, reading it over and picking it apart. Kathy, did you do the same?
Yes, I'm still in the process of checking things up and double checking things. I know, we saw when the minimum contribution changed, which is a state-run formula, we saw a significant swing in that assessment towards Groveland. We went from like 37% to now 39% of the budget, based on a state formula. Merrimack went from like 32% to 34%, and West Newbury went from 30% down to 27% of the budget. So I'm concerned that tying the regional agreement to the two-step process, which includes a state-run formula that we don't really have input into, may not be in the best interest going forward, and I wanted a little more time to look at the alternative. The state law seems to allow for another way to do the assessment, because we already pay above the minimum required amount. We're already above that, well above it. So I believe we do have a choice in how the allocation is done, and I'm not saying it's going to save us any money right now, because we're at about the same percentage as our students, but it might stabilize the process going forward so that we don't see a sudden shift in our assessment because the state decides to change their formula, which is unfortunately what happened to us. My personal belief on the state formula is it's better designed for a standalone district inside a town or city and doesn't work well when it's applied to a regional district, you know, because one town got sort of capped off and said they were contributing, their minimum contribution didn't rise as quickly as Merrimack and Groveland's, and you know, there was a sudden swing in the assessment process, not really due to student growth. So I wanted to look into that aspect of it, and I also wanted to look into the aspect of the capital assessment and whether or not funds that are being put towards stabilization by a regional school district are indeed capital, because they're used only for capital purposes, and should those be broken out in the assessment process and shown as a capital assessment? Because they are capital. They're not going to be used to operate the school. They can only be used for capital needs in the district. So those are just a few of the questions. I know I attended a meeting with Sarah from the Finance Board, and I agree with some of the other things that selectmen from the other two towns were saying. I think those are good changes. I'm still kind of wondering about these two big issues, and I need to look at it more carefully to understand it better.
Okay. We could put this off for a couple of weeks. Why don't we put on the agenda for the next meeting, and hopefully Jason will be there and he can weigh in. I know he had a lot of comments about it. Finance Board, got any comments?
The only few I wanted to make was, there's one section where they're talking about capital projects, and it's right now saying that, anything not less than 10,000. The conversation that Kathy and I attended, they talked about, increasing that up to 20,000 instead of 10, since that's such a low number. Also having the capital plan change to get it earlier than January 15th so that we can develop our capital plan, and not have to wait so long for theirs. And then also, their capital projects, they say 5 years, but we are actually moving ours to 10, so to kind of keep everything in line, and the same as what the town does and the school, were the three things that I would say I would bring up that we should definitely consider changing. The two other towns, Merrimack and West Newbury, are gonna present their changes, as of their meeting tonight, forward, so we'll reevaluate that after your meeting in December.
Okay.
Could I make one other comment
Go
too?
ahead.
I just want to put Selectman Castronellis's comment into perspective. She's talking about a 2% shift. This is toward our town. That's a 2% shift on a $45 million budget. 2% is a big deal for our town. So it really is an important undertaking to understand better. So thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
Mr. Chair. My perspective on this is we have a regional school district, and to me, it makes sense that may work for us in terms of economy of scale for the junior high and the high school or middle school, whatever you want to call it, 7 through 12. But I've never really understood why our elementary school needs to be within a regional school district. And in many ways, I think this town's given up local control over the primary education of its children. And I have always thought, and I still believe, that there's a competing interest between the secondary education and the primary education. And some of the suggested budget cuts were to elementary school teachers. So I don't know if there's any support for looking at that, or if I'm the only one in town. But, I'd like some thought put into it as to why is the Bagnell Elementary School and the Page School and the Donahue, why aren't they controlled locally by each town? I think that kids would get a better education, would bring the control back to each local district, and I think would have a better result. Because I think there's a shift and there's an ebb and flow between the funding, and I haven't, my kids went through the elementary school, and I think a lot of improvements could be made to the Bagnell Elementary School. And I haven't analyzed the numbers. I don't know if they're that easy to analyze in terms of the state budget, but are we paying and subsidizing for two other towns because of an income formula and a per pupil formula that's adverse to the interests of the residents and the taxpayers in Groveland? And if we could take the elementary school out of that formula, how much would that save us or cost us? And I don't think anyone knows because no one's looked at it. But I think we ought to take a hard look at it. And maybe we might find that Merrimack's not happy with the school district for they have 2 elementary schools over there. And maybe they want to keep 2 elementary schools. So I don't know if that discussion would be fruitful or if it would be simply dismissed. But that's my perspective on it. If we're going to take a fresh look at this agreement, put everything on the table.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Dan, in the agreement, it does say that we agreed to lease the school to them, so it does address that, but it is in there, so agreed, if that's something you wanna look at, it does address in there. So
Well, it's not just a matter of leasing it. Who controls the teachers and the principals, and who hires and fires, and who decides what the core curriculum and the teaching methods are going to be, and whether or not we have inclusion classes, or whether or not we have tracking at the elementary school levels. And years ago, I sat down with Dr. Mulqueen on that issue, and they do have inclusion classes, and I think it's one of the reasons why the MCAS scores come up where Groveland comes up short and we're below state averages, because they do not have tracking until you get to the middle school level, and in high school they don't call it tracking, but effectively it is tracking. They have honors, they have 3 or 4 different levels, but they, for some reason, will not do that at the elementary school level, and I think it's detrimental to the children's at the top of the classroom, in the middle, and at the bottom. So I'm not a fan. And if it's radical to take a Bagnell out of the district, then I think it ought to be looked at, because I think we're coming up short.
Comment from the finance board? None. Kathy?
Yeah, so the history of the elementary school was that it was separate years ago, and because the town could not pay their assessment to the middle and high school, they would reduce the money toward the elementary school. So our elementary school fell further and further behind and had larger and larger class sizes. In addition to that, the cost of special education was borne by the town alone and couldn't be easily shared across the district, as well as special education resources, which are extraordinarily expensive. But when they can be moved and shared across the district, it becomes more cost-effective. Also, keep in mind that by having the elementary school within the district, if a need arises, the district resources can be moved, can be resourced towards that elementary school. As far as the reductions to the elementary teachers following the failed override, I don't think that should have happened. I think there should have been other things looked at, but I'm not on the school committee. And I'm just hopeful that by starting our dialogue with the school committee earlier, like we have, I went to the meeting, I was the only member from this board that went to the meeting, hopefully opening lines of communication with them, explaining the town side of resources, hearing their side of resources, by listening to each other. That's one of the first steps towards trying to find some common ground here, rather than just divide the district further. I think that, I work in education, I work at the Whittier District, so I don't have an elementary school in my school that I work within, but I've looked at the budgeting in the Pentucket District. I think they do move the appropriate resources where they're needed. I think they've set up some really incredible programs in the elementary schools that are of great benefit to our students, to the West Newbury students, and to the Merrimack students. And this is one of the things that we thought would come about because of regionalization. And I think having the district manage that and submit for the circuit breaker funds, which are significant amounts of money, having them take care of that for us is an advantage as well. So I think that if we feel that our elementary school isn't being treated fairly, the Board of Selectmen should attend meetings and speak up for our elementary school, which is what I'm doing.
Okay, yes.
So, just a couple comments on, I hear you, Selectman McDonald, what you're saying. But what I have learned over the last year with the school budget is that with the failed override, they did cut the middle and high school teachers. At theoretically, in order to protect, they did do some cuts at the elementary level, but they talked about having the ability to cut at the high school level because those classes rotate. The teacher doesn't have one class through the whole entire day. So they can handle a larger class and then a smaller class. It averages out at the high school level. At the elementary level, it was much more important to them to keep class sizes in check because those classes don't rotate. And so and also just the independence and the maturity factor that comes into higher aged grades. And so that was the message I heard from them. And the other thing that I heard from them over the last year from the district is that they've been working steadily on coordinating the curriculum across the 3 towns. Now, I'm not an educator, but just from what I've heard over the last year being attentive to these meetings, one of the struggles that they had is that the elementary schools, even though they were financed by the district, they had their own curriculum prerogatives, say. And that became a burden to the middle school. When the middle school needed to assimilate those 3 towns, it was a problem for them. And so now they are working really hard to coordinate the curriculum from the elementary all the way up so that the kids are more on par, more prepared, more learning the same things. So when they get to the middle school and then they go up to the high school, the educating is just coordinated and the kids are more all on the same path and the same length. So I just think from what you're saying, I wonder if those 2 facts would be just helpful information.
Dan, follow up?
Yeah, I think there's no excuse for cutting elementary school math or English teachers, okay? I have 3 children in the high school, and I talked to them, and I asked them about what goes on and who's teaching what, and I try to get some information from students, okay? Now, they have, for instance, an example, they teach German, Spanish, and Latin, okay? You know, if I had a choice between cutting a 3rd grade math teacher or the German teacher, I'd cut the German teacher. Do you really need all the electives? They have many electives over there that are not as important as primary education. That is my opinion, and somebody might disagree with that. But it's foundational. I think primary education is far more important than high school. I do. Okay? You learn to read, and then you read to learn. And you can go at your own pace, and you can make up for things, and you can be more independent the older you get. Okay? If they're on quicksand in the elementary school, they're dragging that all the way through high school and through life. It's tough to play catch up on math, especially. So I think there's absolutely no excuse for cutting an elementary math teacher. Cut the administration in the district office. Let them take some sacrifices. They got $6 million budget, and they got to cut a math teacher? I don't think so. I'm not buying it. I listen. I hear. Yeah, I don't go to school committee meetings. I have watched them, okay? And there's not a lot of questions raised by the school committee. I don't think there's enough inquisition and questions and answers that goes on. I feel that it's a rubber stamp and it's kind of top down, and we bear the brunt of that, okay? So I'm sour on it, and they can do better. There's no excuse for cutting elementary school. Math and English teachers, period. I don't want to hear it.
Okay. Rebuttal? Nothing?
No, just clarification. I believe they
Go
cut
ahead.
a 6th grade teacher, so they're not designated like
Yeah.
math teacher. It's-
They
So,
didn't. They don't
yeah.
have that ability. That's not how they're structured.
Right, they're
I
not
don't think they
certified.
cut
though.
it.
The handout we got at the last meeting, it said, 3rd grade math, 3rd grade English, didn't it?
No,
It had a list.
right, but not.
What do you mean, right?
that-
Maybe an aide, maybe a specialist, maybe a helper. I don't know.
I don't have the handout with me, but that's what I
wouldn't-
read. I'll go back
check
and look at it.
Yeah, check it for me,
Yeah.
because that's not what I saw
Those
at the
teachers,
presentation.
the kids stay in the room the whole day, and the teachers teach all subjects, so it's not quite that specialized.
Wasn't how it was presented on the slideshow.
I think those are the cuts that they make at the secondary level.
The cuts they make at the what?
I believe they
The high
cut a
school.
math high school
They
teacher.
did, yeah.
Yeah,
And in English in high school, but that happened at the
Correct.
high school level, as I understood.
Okay.
I'll bring the handout back.
Well, it sounds like we got some work to do on that. Next meeting, Rebecca? Is that gonna be okay? All right. We'll hold that. Beth, did you have a particular agenda? item? You just, if everybody is agreeable, we'll bring up other items not reasonably anticipated, and we'll bring up the town clerk.
well, What is the topic? She
You
doesn't
don't have
a-
anything?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
I thought you did. All right. Council on Aging Director Search Committee. And we have a letter from the Council on Aging. And I'll read it. The chairperson of the Council on Aging Board will appoint a special committee of up to 7 members to help select the next Council on Aging Director. The committee shall be composed of 1 or more Council on Aging Board members, the town manager, probably should be the town administrator, not the manager, and additional Council on Aging community participants. The search committee will be chaired by a member of the board, Council on Aging Board. And the task, review and apply, approve town personnel practices and procedures, establish a timetable and meeting schedule, review existing job postings, seek funding for posting on additional online search engines, accept applications, and review qualifications, participate in the interview process, bring one or more recommended candidates to the Council on Aging Board for approval. Council on Aging Board urges Council on Aging community supporters to assist with the task. And Rebecca, just clarification, did they wanted at least one member of the Board of Selectmen?
That's correct. Selectman Naves had attended one of their meetings, and they had asked him specifically, and he had mentioned that he would be willing to, but he wanted to bring it before the Board of Selectmen to get their official vote to be appointed to such.
Okay. Is there, somebody want to make a
One
motion?
Make a motion to appoint Jason Naves to the, is there, just the Council on Aging Director Search Committee? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, that'll cover it.
Okay. That's the
Motion, second.
Yep, I'm second.
A second, any discussion? None, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Groveland Housing Authority Environmental Review, and we have the paperwork from Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Chair, just to give some background on the process, the Groveland Housing Authority is going to be pursuing some capital improvement plans, and as part of that, they need to release some funding from HUD, as they are a federal agency, and so they have to go through this environmental review process. There has been some review by necessary departments, the fire chief, the building commissioner, the historical commission, and the conservation agent have all gone out to the site and inspected to make sure that there was no issues with what was being proposed. If you look in the paperwork, you'll see that it's really just common maintenance. They're looking at doing some carpeting, some keyless entry systems, some lighting, some security cameras, some chimney repair, roadway paving, bathroom renovation, kitchen renovation, so generic improvements, but this is the process that the federal government outlines for them to release the funds and move forward with the process. So I do have letters from, like I mentioned, the conservation agent, the historical commission, the building inspector, and the fire department, all stating that there is no issues with what's being proposed.
Okay,
So now
any
we-
questions for Rebecca on that?
Yes, so they're saying they're going to do carpeting and we kind of control the air, so we're saying there's no environmental impact
Exactly.
from their thing. So, will our chairman need our vote to sign off on it?
That's correct.
Okay. Does the motion have to be specific to any public number or filing, or?
I don't believe so.
So, I'll make a motion for Chairman Ed Watson to be allowed to sign off on behalf of the Board of Selectmen on the work that the Housing Authority wants to proceed forward with. They have to go through the state anyway.
Motion and a second?
Yep.
Thank you. Any discussion? It's quite an extensive project. Emergency generator, backup, new doors, bathroom renovation, new carpeting, and the price is $111,000, $135,000. That seems,
It seems cheap.
that's pretty reasonable. Although, estimated total HUD funded amount, 147,310. I think that is not a correct amount. Did you see that, Rebecca?
Or,
Page 2, the funding information.
I believe that's because that's what's being funded by HUD.
So it looks like about 100,000 is covered by what?
Under the federal portion. So they have HUD and non-HUD funds.
Mm-hmm, okay. Okay, a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, who prepared this?
The Groveland Housing Authority, the executive director.
Yeah. Okay, it just, a lot of these seem obvious, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't know the answers, you know. There's no significant impact on the Endangered Species Act of 1973. I don't know. What happens to the old carpet, you know? It's kind of ridiculous, the regulation for this. That's my comment.
That's how their forms are.
That's
though.
federal government regulations. Okay,
Yeah.
the motion and a second. Any other discussion? None? All in favor? Unanimous. 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Town administrator time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have 2 items. One is to update the board and let you all know that I attended the superintendent luncheon at Whittier on Friday. They're actually looking to construct a new building over at Whittier. So a lot of the conversation had to do with their plans and what they're proceeding with, potential design options. They also updated us and let them know that they are on the MSBA queue. So there is potential for matching funding. They're looking at getting approval from the 11-member city and towns so that we can borrow. The preliminary design estimate is about 296 million, and they're looking for, well, they're not looking for anything other than to update the Board of Selectmen of this project and let them know that they are willing to come and talk to us more about what they're planning to do and why they're planning to do it. There are some improvements that need to be done in the building in its entirety regardless if this does not move forward, such as they need to sprinkle the entire building, so there will be some capital improvement costs regardless of what is being proposed, whether it be a new building or renovation and or necessary capital improvements. But just to put it in perspective, that there is some need from Whittier Technical in terms of their building plans, and their presentation that they provided on Friday is included in your packet, so you can get some more information and you can see the breakdown of the percentages for the different communities. And then just to let the board know, we received a community compact IT grant for $26,000 to develop a strategic plan for our future IT investments.
Okay, any questions for Rebecca?
Yes, more
Kathy,
about,
you had a question?
yeah, about the grant for the IT. What is that? What would that specifically be used for?
So essentially, it'll give us an assessment of all of what we currently have for our IT infrastructure, and then give us a plan as to how we should support that infrastructure moving forward, where there's holes, where there should be upgrades in terms of cybersecurity, if there's new software or equipment that we should be investing in, if there's a better way to go about some of the procedure and process that we have, a program that will help us. They'll identify all of that and give us a blueprint as to how to move forward in the direction of improving those, or receiving those.
Right.
Anybody else? None. Thank you. You have anything else? Yes, you do. The
Back.
police and fire ride with Santa?
Oh, yes, the fire chief had shared with us a flyer for the first annual Santa visit, which will take place on December 4th at 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. They will, be having Santa down at the public safety building, so that anybody who would like can go down and take a picture with Santa. And there will also be, light refreshments.
Okay. Selectmen's time and reports. Kathy, do you have anything?
No, yes, well, yes, actually, I was able to, I missed out on turkey night, so I don't know who won the most turkeys, if anybody went to that. Usually somebody wins like 4, right? But I did get to the a cappella night at the new Pentucket Auditorium, and it was a really nice, performance, wonderful auditorium. Hopefully, they'll be bringing more, shows in there for the communities, and we can get more word out, because it was fairly well attended, but I think we could have gotten more people in there. Tickets were only $10, and they had the a cappella, they featured the a cappella group from Northeastern University. So it was a pretty neat show. It was pretty nice evening out locally, and look forward to them bringing some more things. And it was sponsored by the Pentucket Arts Foundation, but certainly any council on aging in our town or anybody could reserve the auditorium and bring something in if they know about it. It would be wonderful.
Thank you. That it?
Yep.
Mark, you have anything?
Oh, good.
Dan, you have anything?
Not tonight.
And I don't either. Moving on to old business. Old or unfinished business. Elm Park, arborist review of the elm trees, and Mark, you wanted this, on, and we got the study back, or about the elm trees, quite an extensive, thing. I was kind of surprised reading it, some of the damage of the trees down there. Mark, you want to start it off?
Yeah, no, I mean, we spent a lot of money downtown. I want to keep it beautiful. I mean, I had my own tree business for quite a few years, and I've been looking at them, and they just need help. Otherwise, the bugs are going to get into them. They're going to keep splitting with the heavy snow, and I'd hate to see, downtown bare with no elm trees. And if you read through this packet, there's quite a bit wrong with them, and I'd like to save it. It's,
Well, I was kind of surprised at the damaged trees, the possible decay in some of the trees down there. There seemed to be quite a few.
Yep.
Uh,
They haven't been properly taken care of. I mean, they do look good, but they could look better. Like I said, it's gonna look weird if they snap in half and have big empty spaces between them, and I think it's pretty smart if we spend some money and maintain them like they should have been from the beginning. And we have a tendency to spend all this money on certain projects, but we don't have a plan to, the upkeep of them, and I don't know, that's pretty much it. I think I'd like to get a price, and hopefully if everybody's on board, spend some money and save them. I mean, you can see broken branches in them, the roots, you just had a car hit them. I mean, that's nothing you can really, stop, but there's lots of dead trees throughout the town, and it's only a matter of time before those start getting attacked. And like I said, just
Perhaps we should get the highway superintendent in here, the tree warden, and ask for his recommendations.
Yep, and my one request, because it's probably gonna be pretty expensive, if we could come up with the money from a different budget, source, rather than the tree warden budget, because that's only 10 grand, and doing tree work, it's, 2,000 to 3,000 for a day, so this is probably gonna be 5-6 grand anyways, if I had to guess, to do it properly.
So the cost of the report was $840 for what you have before you. And the gentleman said that he would do a more in-depth evaluation with a long-term management plan.
Right,
And that would be for $2,800.
I'm surprised it's that cheap.
What was the price again?
$2,800 for a longer
You get-
management plan.
You
in
get,
terms
you're
of
gonna
how
have to do this for a couple years, like, you can't just go trim them, they're good for 10 years, you gotta maintain them every year.
So,
I-
Mr. Chairman.
I didn't see that in the prices in this paperwork.
At the last meeting, we had talked about maybe potentially getting a quote for additional review, since this was just a basic analysis of the current situation. And Rennie Carroll had reached out to the gentleman, James MacArthur, and got a price, and the price he gave me today.
Okay. No, thank you. Kathy?
Yep, well, to your point, Mark, I think it's a good idea. I think that the park was created with a giant grant, but I think that our CPA money is allowed to be used for historical. Look at the squint I'm getting. It's a whiff, but it's almost a yes. It's close. It's getting close. But it is a historically designated restoration park. And you're correct. We never did set up a maintenance plan to keep it looking as good as when we first put it up. I mean, it looks great now, but it would look bad if one of the trees snapped in half. And so I certainly think we should look into this, right, Mr. Dempsey? I think he's nodding yes, that we can look into it before he chokes.
Yeah, my only point was just the tree warden budget is too small. You drive up Uptack Road down
Correct.
Center Street, there's thousands of trees that
Right.
should be taken care of because they're a matter of safety, and I would hate to take this and, out of that budget, just because it's gonna affect something else. I think we
Right.
could scrounge up the money
No,
someplace.
well, to get to do it ongoing, and I think this gets back to the financial policies that the town administrator put before us, that we tend to go, take a grant, and do something, but then we don't have anything in place to maintain it or service it. So we need to start to think about the whole picture when we do these things. And so it's well brought up. Good job.
In fact, there was a tree a couple weeks ago that went down up on Uptack.
The ash trees there's gotta be about 20 or 30 of them going up
All
that
good
road.
burning trees.
They're good firewood,
Yeah.
if you know anybody.
Dan, you have anything?
Yeah, just Kathy's idea is great. I think that the Conservation Commission maybe should buy it off the town, put it in some land trust, and then they can pay the town beaucoup dollars for that strip of land and maintain it in perpetuity. I'd be in favor of that. Just deed it right over to you, Mike, and take care of it forever. Save the taxpayers some money.
Anything to save the taxpayers' money.
And if that doesn't work for conservation, then call it historic. I mean, it's put it on the National Register.
It is.
There you go. Then I don't see any gray in that interpretive law there. I think we could write those checks all day long, Mike.
Fund maintenance, that's the only thing, so you have to make sure that it's not maintenance.
I think it's preservation. I think the trees will die unless you do something about it, and then you'll be looking at stumps out there like the pines. It'd be a sandbar. We'll call it the sandbar.
Stretch the line. Okay, so we'll, if we can touch bases with the highway superintendent, and maybe we can look into CPA funds, and we'll, next meeting? Okay. Moving on.
Limitless funds.
Board of Selectmen policies and procedures, and Kathy, this was something you were working on?
Well, Jason and I worked on it, and I think then when I found the template from the state, the board seemed to feel that that generic template was maybe a better format, so I was going to say, do you want us to just take out some of the wordiness and boil it down to the template style policy, so it could be a code of conduct for all appointed and elected boards, including ourselves, and have a go at it that way?
Comment? Anybody? Dan? Mark?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't agree with it.
We're back to that. Well, if you want, I can meet with Jason, we can redraft it a little bit and come back to you and see if there's a majority vote or not. I can't see, to keep putting this on, over and over. You looked at the template, you read from one of the policies. The last meeting, you thought we'd already adopted it, Mr. Chairman, but we haven't yet. So, similar to the financial policies, in the absence of policies, there is no real structure and guideline for new members to elected and appointed boards. And I think we are the executive board of town. It is our responsibility to review and adopt, these types of guidelines for the town. And I don't mean for them to squeeze anybody out. We can make it broad-based. That's why if you want Jason and I to sit down and go over it one more time and maybe simplify it some more. We were trying to make one document. It seems like the board would be more leaning towards one policy at a time, perhaps. That'd be better. We could do that. Be glad to do that. If that's the wishes of the board.
Any other comment? Dan? Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the Board of Selectmen appoints board members and unelected, and committee members, and it's worked. For instance, here it says, if you fail to attend 51% in any 6 months, you shall be considered to have resigned. I mean,
That's an existing policy. That's not the one I wrote. Those are the ones we have now that we're not following.
well, I think we should follow it.
Well,
So it's, you want my comment, I'm gonna tell you what I don't like, all right? So,
those aren't the draft policies.
Did you want to let him finish?
Well, no, I'm saying,
Well-
Want to let him finish?
no, actually, I don't, because we're
let me
mixing
ask
and
you this.
matching.
Dan, go ahead, you got the floor.
Ridiculous.
is this not the doc?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
You
those
got
are the
floor.
town, those are the
He's talking
policies
about
the
this,
town
yeah.
has. Those are the, that's why they say policies.
So, to amplify what I was saying, okay, so we have these voluminous regulations, red tape I call it, that we haven't been following, because nobody reads them, and we kind of like, So, what good is any law, or any rule or reg, if it's not enforced, okay? So, we're just going to add to that. For what purpose? So, it's just, what we ought to do is boil things down to simplicity, okay?
That's what I offered to do.
Right? And things should be flexible, because the more rigid they are, they break. So, I don't think we need to add any more red tape, and that's what we're doing.
Anybody else?
Well, I guess, I know, but Selectman McDonald's opinion, he doesn't want this to be an agenda item. I get that. I've heard that numerous times. I just need to know from the chairman and from the Selectman Parento, Jason and I could be glad to sit down and take what we drafted and simplify it, and then the existing policies, we could address one by one and change them. If we're not following them, I see no reason to keep them. It seems, as an executive board, it's rather stupid of us to have a policy posted on our website that we don't follow. That's very short-sighted. So, I mean, it wouldn't take that much. I just don't want to keep tying up this much time, that's all.
Dan, do you want to work with her on that, going over these?
Here's the point, Kathy. It's not that I don't want it to be an agenda item. It's just, it's too wordy, and we should boil it down. Like, you look
Exactly.
at conduct in community, AD, abide by the ethics established by the law. I don't need to be told, and I don't think anyone else needs to be told, but you have to comply with the law or you're breaking the law, okay? So to tell me that I need to abide by ethics established by the state, for what? It's pointless.
But-
We're supposed to.
Can I
We're
respond?
supposed to. Let me finish.
You can respond.
No, because he says,
Please let him finish. and
Right?
you
Mr.
can
Chairman,
respond.
point of order.
No. You're interrupting me, Kathy, and
No, I
again.
have a point of order.
No.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is that he's saying things that I have not said. I said, would you like us to simplify things and boil it down to simple language? It's a yes or no that I'm looking for.
Dan, go ahead.
I'll give you a qualified yes or no. There's exceptions, okay? So yes, but, all right? So you say here to engage in civilized debate and discussion. Well, how about we add somewhere in there you can't interrupt all the time, okay? So the point is, you can have rules that say what we're supposed to do, but if people don't follow it, it's pointless. That's my point. So it's just, it's lip service.
Okay. You wanna work with Kathy on that?
I'll try, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can,
It's going to be fun.
We'll have fun.
We sure will.
Mark, did you have
Oh,
anything?
no.
Okay. Legal counsel request for proposals. Dan, did you read that over?
Where is it?
We have it here.
There's so much paperwork. We need a paper reduction act. All right. Help me out, Mark.
Right here.
Thank you. I needed you at the last meeting, too. What, I think the gist is that we could post it, but it's just subject to negotiation. I mean, that's kind of the catch-all I'm looking for. I don't know that it needs to be as in-depth in this, because whatever document you give to a law firm, they're gonna give you their own. I know that from experience. You could give them the Mona Lisa, and they'll send it back with some stylistic change, or they'll rewrite the whole thing. So, and we don't know what we're gonna get. So,
That the direction was to give you an RFP to go out to bid for.
that's fine. That's fine. And we'll see what we get. And they might say they can do some of it or all of it, or they might say they want a retainer, or they're gonna negotiate their own terms. So I don't know that there's any, I don't know how that works. If someone does it have to come back to bid?
So it depends. So the way that an RFP works is that you rate them whether or not they're highly advantageous, or not advantageous, based upon the responses laid out as required under the document that we go out to bid with. And therefore, each of them are based on the merits of the proposal and not necessarily the lowest price, so that we can evaluate them on what types of services that we're looking for.
Would this document somehow, make it so that we couldn't deviate from this if
Under procurement laws specifically, they have to be very detailed in what services that you're looking for and what you're requiring, because otherwise it's not a competitive process if somebody else comes in and says, well, I can give you this, but I can also do this. Well, we didn't ask for that, so that wouldn't necessarily so it takes out the competitive process. If you're gonna start negotiating, it wouldn't follow the procurement laws.
So if it's just kind of an all or none.
Essentially, when you go to bid, you need to be detailed on what it is that you're looking for. There is some room for some flexibility, but not heavily negating from what you're asking for the services to be provided.
Because here's the way I see it. We need municipal legal counsel. We need human resources, employment-related, contract law. I don't know what litigation needs we'll have in the future. It's hard to tell. It may be much more specialized depending on the nature of the litigation. So could we just focus on what's recurring in nature and scope as to what legal services we use routinely, and then maybe leave out the litigation?
Yes, we can definitely do that, and we don't necessarily have to go out for bid for those services either, since they're exempt from 30B procurement. So we can solicit proposal, like I was trying to say at the last meeting, I have looked at other law firms to provide other services on a reoccurring basis, as KP Law is doing, not from a litigation standpoint, but from a, town meeting standpoint. I was very disappointed with the way KP reviewed our warrant and gave us feedback in terms of all of the articles that were written. There was a bunch of mistakes, and I really wanted to move in a different direction, and I know that the gentleman is actually gonna be retiring, so I had reached out to a couple of other law firms to see exactly if they could provide those services, and they've provided me a rate and said that they could if the town so chose. So I guess I'm confused about the direction, because if you wanna go out to bid for a project, then the document before you is an RFP, and that's
Right.
how you go out to bid. And this is more so like, a trial by error, like, we did not enjoy the services that KP provided for certain things, so let's move in and try somebody else.
Well, I practice law, as you know, but I don't know the procedures for the government in terms of what you have to do to be compliant with state law on bids and fairness. So could we accomplish task by the way you want to do it without this?
I believe that the legal services are exempt under the procurement laws.
So we could hire, we could look at whatever you have for, what would I call them? Responses, and decide if we want to hire them either for the whole thing or piecemeal.
Because we don't have a current contract with KP Law.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always, as far as I know, you can fire your lawyer at will, even in the middle of a trial. So, I don't know that they can, but they can, certainly keep your retainer if it's contracted for. So, is that your recommendation, not to use this, because it's too, it locks us in?
Essentially, that's what I believe. And then the firm that I was speaking with the other day mentioned something that you had actually brought up about a different type of setup where it would be a lump sum, so you would get a contract, but it'd be a lump sum retainer, and they would provide certain services throughout that time, and they detailed it. Or you could do like an hourly, and their hourly is half of what KP's hourly is right now. So they could come together with a different type of thing, like you're talking about, with different proposals that don't necessarily tie you into a longer term contract like this RFP that has the rigorous procedures of a procurement, request for a proposal, and do something where we kind of see what else is out there.
Well, can the board, each member get copies of those, and we could review that and then see if that accomplishes what we decide without going through this, if this is more
So I only have
restrictive?
I only have one proposal right now, and it doesn't include a price proposal, and it doesn't include like it was more of a conversation. They provided some background around the firm, but they didn't provide the prices if we wanted to. They said that they would provide more information.
All right, so do you need an RFP to get somebody
No.
to say they agree to X for a retainer? That's where I'm ignorant on that,
So
okay? So
legal services are exempt from 30B, like engineering services, they're exempt from 30B. So you're not required to
So
go.
maybe we can look at that. I mean, generally, I like flexibility, and if we don't like them, we can make a change. So if they agree on a retainer, I'm sure they're gonna have some restrictive contract language in there and
Of course.
forfeiture, right? But that's a risk you take. You either take a chance on them, you save some money, and then you see if you re-up them in the next budget. So can we see those so that we,
So like I said, I only
because
have
I'm
the
flying
one now.
blind on what's out there and what our options are. But I've talked to other attorneys, and what I heard was that some towns might not have a full-time city solicitor, because, they're too small. Groveland, we're not gonna have a city solicitor, we're not even a city. But there might be some smaller firms that have a retainer, where they're closer to you, they're not downtown Boston. They don't have a huge client base, so you get a quicker response time, and you might have some, maybe better service, right? So that's what I'm looking for ultimately, and if we could save money, then, because Copeland went up on their fee this year.
Yep, $230 per
So
hour.
if you got somebody to say they're half price, I wanna look at it. I don't speak for the board, but, so, don't get me wrong, I thought we had to do this.
Not for
Oh,
legal services.
Oh, we couldn't.
Sometimes municipalities like to go out through the procurement process in order to cast a larger net and to kind of, you know, lock in place what it is that they're looking for, even if it's not necessarily required, encourage that type of competition. It's not required for this particular service.
Yeah, well, again, you know, my outlook on it is whatever we have for recurring needs in terms of legal services, we should hire a firm that can handle that. And then if there's a specialty area, you bring in a pinch hitter if you need one later, and we shouldn't be locked in the firm we have.
Okay.
Okay, Kathy?
Yeah, I did speak with Rebecca about this in between meetings, because realizing that our attorney from KP Law that has come to our town meeting for like, 30 years or so is retiring out. It'd be a good time to look at a closer firm that charges a little bit less to help review our warrants, and hopefully find someone that can stay with us for the next 20 years or so. But we don't necessarily need the retainer. We can just do the hourly rate and have that attorney assist us with an annual town meeting and see what we think. I mean, we'll know when we work with these people if it's easy for us to communicate with them, and our town administrator will be the first to tell us if it's working easy for her, because that's the most important person when it comes to the legal counsel and the annual town meeting. You're the person they're gonna be talking to the most. So I'm glad to look at something, but I'm more interested in our town administrator just saying this is someone she wants to try, and then hearing back from her what she thinks of the services. And we can always give feedback after the town meeting, if that's what we decide to do. But I'm open to that.
We could try them out on an hourly basis, and then we would be free to negotiate a retainer going forward, right? Like, maybe that's the right approach.
Okay. I think we're pretty good on that. Other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting? Anybody got anything? Nothing? Correspondence? We have included the DLS management review, materials for review at the December 5th, 2022 meeting. If everybody can read that over. I think that says December 30th. No, December 5th. December 5th meeting. Okay, if nobody has anything else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to
Motion to
adjourn
adjourn.
at 7:53.
In a second, all in favor of adjournment? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
This